Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another stream. Hopefully, we're going to have some better internet connection today, and there will not be any need for me to record this all separately because it was a big rigmarole doing that yesterday. I hope I find you all well, and you are surviving and thriving in this crazy times that we are living in. I'm quite sore today. I did my PT session yesterday, so it's always going to be this time of week when I'm sore. It's always worse, isn't it? You're sore after the event, but you're even worse the day after. So I'm worried about how I'm going to feel tomorrow. But yeah, you've got to keep trim. You don't get a physique like mine. Sat around eating crisps. You do. So yeah, today's going to be a bit of a shorter one. Really, we're not. It isn't a massive. It's a massively important bit of the spec, but it's not a massively long bit of the spec. This we're going to talk about because a lot of the stuff that's required to talk about this topic, which is business plans, you actually need the rest of it, if that makes sense. You need the rest of the spec. So luckily for you guys, because basically we're doing revision, unless you are seeing this for the first time and you are doing this for the first time, then it's easier for you to put things in context in your mind. So I'm not going to spend ages and ages on stuff that reasonably you are already going to know or you're already going to think. It's basically just it's more like a jigsaw puzzle today. I want you to take the different pieces that you know of the spec already, break even, cash flow, all your different things like that, your ideas of stakeholders, your different ideas of marketing, and kind of push it all together. So it's a really nice revision topic, business plans, because it requires you to have some prior knowledge of other things. It's interesting why we put it so early on in the spec, actually, when a bit of prior knowledge about a range of different things will significantly help you. So we'll get straight into it anyway. But it's not going to be a massively complex or detailed or long presentation, this one today, because and another reason I've got two new games to play, so I've got to get off the stream to go and play them. No, I'm only joking. I do have two new games to play though. So yeah, I want to go and play them. Let's have a look at business plans. Okay, so first things first. First things first. When I've clicked onto my PowerPoint, first things first. Objectives are: explain the purpose and main components of a business plan, identify the main sources of information and guidance available to entrepreneurs, evaluate the importance of a business plan. And then we've got a past paper question at the end as well, which is going to be pretty useful to us. So we're going to have a look at that as well. Now, before we start, let's just have a look at this. And you've probably realised by now when we're doing these, the sort of structure of what the spec says about what it wants you to do. And eagle-eyed viewers will have realised that the explain, identify, evaluate that it keeps repeating, or discuss or describe, that it uses the buzzwords, it uses the key words from the questions that it will ask you in the exam. In the actual spec, in the thing which it puts in the aims and objectives of the learning objectives. So it's a really useful thing to know. I mean, go on to it. I'll see if I can link it. If I remember, I'll link it in the description. But have a look at the spec. Don't forget, this is something that students don't do. Go and have a look at the actual spec, because it's strange that you don't have it, tattooed to your head, considering that how important it is. The way that you should be structuring your revision. Get the spec out, have a look at the spec, go through it, decide whether you're doing it, because that's all I'm doing now, isn't it? I'm just going through the spec bit by bit. But that's what you should be using as your sort of what's the best way? Like a revision guide. The spec is useful. There is like a textbook that goes with it, but it's massive and it's really, really goes into a lot more detail in certain things that you don't need. And a lot of the things it can't tell you, it's about developing that technique, that evaluation, that ideas about things. Your ability to evaluate situations and things like that. You can't really, it's not, I say you can't teach it, you can teach it to an extent, but a lot of it comes down to practicing those past paper questions. So use the spec though, go and have a look at the spec, have a look at what's requested of you, and have a look at the second year spec as well, because we're not onto it yet. But you'd be surprised how much of it you might already know, and you might be makes you feel a little bit more comfortable about what we're going to do. All right, okay, so first things first, what is a business plan? Well, let's have a look at the definition. The definition is a plan for the development of a business, giving details such as the products to be made and sold, and forecasts such as costs and cash flow. Now, we know about cash flow forecasts, don't we? Because we've already talked about them. We've done them on a previous video. If you don't, you can go and have a look at them and the importance of them. And I feel like I'm constantly talking about cash flow at the moment, about the importance of it. And in these lockdown days that we're living in, cash flow is really going to be the difference between these businesses thriving and failing. Or rather, not thriving. No one's thriving at the minute, are they? Except supermarkets and pharmaceutical companies. But the idea of sort of these companies not having these cash flow forecasts in place is a testament to why some of these companies are going to fail. And it doesn't matter what the government does, it doesn't matter what stakeholders do. Realistically, there are going to be companies who don't come out of this, and that's just something that we've got to accept, because businesses fail all the time. It's they say is it like 9 out of 10 new businesses fail within the first 6 months, something like that. It's a crazy statistic anyway. They change it occasionally, but it's something similar to that, where it's very, very unlikely that your business will succeed anyway because of a range of factors that you have no control over, and the ones that you do as well. And a business plan's a really good time to show that of whether the person actually understands what the hell they're talking about or not. So who uses a business plan? Well, before we actually get into what's needed in a business plan, who uses a business plan? Well, the big one is individuals. So the business owner, it's really important that the business owner uses a business plan. Because if they don't, they've the actual act of writing stuff down, the actual act of writing the ideas down, doing the market research, getting it down on paper, that is sort of paramount to the success of the business. Now, I'm not saying that you can't be successful without a business plan, and I'm not saying that it guarantees success, because as we know, nothing guarantees success in the business world. It's too rash, it's too changeable, it's too crazy sometimes. But one thing it does do is it makes you take a long, hard, structured approach to the business and whether it is viable. Because I think the viability of the products and the services is one of the most important things it does. So the owner definitely uses business plans. Stakeholders use business plans to have a look at it. So if they're trying to look at whether they're going to invest, investors have a look at it. You can have a look at it if the bank wants to have a look at it, because if they want to, lend you any money, because we know that's one of the biggest things for new businesses is access to finance. So that's a couple of people will be using it, but the main person who should be using this constantly is that owner. Not only to sort of get finance, but more importantly than that, to get in their own mind whether they actually know what the hell they're talking about and whether it is actually viable. So, what's in a business plan? Well, we start off with the executive summary. Now, if you remember, you won't have done this necessarily yet, unless you're a degree student or you've done a degree and stuff like this. You may never have done reports like this. And one of the things that I always mention about these is the executive summary or the business overview. The executive summary is the executive summary because in report writing, the vast majority of stuff that you put in that report isn't important to executives, isn't important to the top dog, the CEO, the person who's reading this last. What they are interested in is the executive summary, in terms of just give me an overview of what's going on. Just tell me basically what the overall thing is. And then we've got bits in the report, in the business plan, that go into a lot more specific detail about different things, which different people will be interested in. The bank might be interested in one bit, your investors might be interested in one thing, your customers might be interested in one thing, whoever it is who's looking at it, they're not all going to be interested, but the executive summary should summarize the whole business in a really nice, neat little, paragraph or two, just to tell us the basics of it, the most important salient points from the rest of the report. Next one's the business objectives. Now, we talked about business objectives a little bit, haven't we? And if you remember, they're really important to make sure that we know where we're going. The main thing that we should be looking at this point is survival. The main thing we should be looking at is, surviving, making sure that we make enough profit to get through the first year or two. But also, we'll have those ethical objectives. I think this is an important time to put those ethical objectives in. To tell people, to try and enthuse to people why they should be interested, show that passion straight away. It's not going to make a difference to people like the bank or necessarily, trying to get finance, but to investors, it could make the difference. You might say, well, look, I'm not doing this just for profit. I'm doing this because I have this, vocation. I'm doing this because I think it's going to help the planet. I'm doing this because blah, blah, blah. And I think that's an important thing as well. Don't forget to show your passion in this point. Business objectives are something which we need to be straight about, we need to be sensible about, they need to be based on fact. But when you are trying to convince people to come and join this organisation or to invest in you, don't be frightened of showing the bit of that passion, showing the fact that, look, one of the objectives is to, try and recycle X amount of thing, is to sell enough products to make this amount of difference to global warming, whatever it is. I mean, I'm not saying that your product would actually do that, but do you see what I mean? I think it's an important point. You've got your survival, you've got your profit maximisation, you've got stuff like that, you've got your cash flow, whatever it is that you're talking about, but don't be frightened of showing a little bit of passion in that. Business opportunities. So straight into it, understanding what it actually is about, what the where the business is going to go. So we've not just talking about a business plan right now. We're talking about a business plan in the future as well. We're talking about a business plan that will not only help us get through the next 6 months, but hopefully will be usable for the next couple of years. So we need to be looking at the business opportunity, not only an opportunity for investors, but also the opportunities which are open to the business. To talk about revenue streams, talk about all the different things that you could do, and why someone should be interested in this business, really. Because remember, it is for you, but it's also to attract those that finance, that investment, isn't it? Next one's the product or service. Seems like an obvious one, but people don't spend enough time talking about the product or service in business plans. Tell us all about it. Tell us all that, whether you've got a patent, have you got copyright, have you got, trademarks in place, what kind of product is it, who's your main competitors. We'll talk about market analysis straight after, but what is the product, and is it for a niche market? Is it for a mass market? Is it for something that's going to, is it something that you want to see on the shelves of Tesco? Where do you picture this product being? And what is the USP? What's the competitive advantage for this business? What for this product or this service? Why is it initially good? This is your chance to impress, potential investors about what the product is, and give them a really straight approach of why you should be interested in this. And it says market analysis. So the market analysis is your market research. It is your what have you been doing to have a look at that market, to be having a look at the various bits, and to understand, well, look, what is it that I currently understand about this market? Is the market teeming? Is it saturated? Is there loads of people involved? Is there no one involved? Is there because I think this is the thing we were talking about yesterday. Is there a gap in the market? If there's a gap in the market, is there a market in the gap? It's very unlikely that you've come up with a completely original idea. In fact, almost certainly you haven't. And anything you've come up with, businesses probably have thought about, and there's a reason why it's not been done. That's not to say that you couldn't have come up with something original, but it's just unlikely, considering how many businesses, how many entrepreneurs, how many people are out there trying to come up with something. So usually it's a variation on a theme, it's my product, it's a bit like this, but it's like that. Well, yeah, okay, well, we need to have a look at the market then. What is the potential? Why are people not invested in this market? What's the issue with it? What are the competitors like? Are there massive competitors? Are there small competitors? Is it monopolistic, in terms of lots and lots of businesses that are competing on brand and stuff like that? Is it more of a monopolistic, or I say monopolistic, is it more of a monopoly or a duopoly or an oligopoly? Is it that? So have a look at the market, make sure that you understand it and that you can confidently talk to someone about your market. If the entrepreneur doesn't know, if the owner doesn't know about this market, then it's very unlikely that anybody's gonna invest in you, put money into you, isn't it? Another one's strategy. What is going to be your strategy? Now, we talk about strategy more in the second year. We talk about strategy more at university. In fact, most things at university, if you do a business degree, are based on business strategy and business decision making. So it's not necessarily something that we spend a hell of a lot of time talking about at A-level level, but it is something that you can't really avoid. You will have talked about competitive advantage and the strategy that you're going to take. Are you going to take, what type of marketing strategy are you going to take? Are you going to go in low? Are you going to do a price skimming thing where you go in high and you try and do it? Are you going to go with the opposite? Are you going to do a market penetration kind of idea? So when we're talking about pricing, we're talking about this is what I'm talking about. You need to know the other salient points, don't you, to be able to understand this section. So hopefully, if you've picked up the rest of the information from the other, from the other streams or from the lessons that we've done, then that will massively impact your ability to do a business plan. And the implementation as well. What do you actually want to do? How do you want to implement this? Is it going to be mainly you? Is it going to be a range of people involved? Is it going to be, is it going to be, well, I suppose you can say as well, can't you, in terms of like, is it going to be a co-op? Is it going to be a sole trader? Is it going to be that? You need to tell them everything about this business, don't you? And that's going to have a significant impact on stuff as well, isn't it? Now, personal breakdown. Now, this one isn't you having a breakdown, like that. Personnel breakdown this is. So, who is going to be involved in that business? Is it going to be, have you got specific people who are experts in things? Is it going to be mainly you? Is it going to be, is it going to be like a team approach? Is it going to be who's putting money into the business and things like that? Why are they there? What do they bring to the party? What are your own skills and abilities? Why should they trust you, essentially? Because if you watch Dragon's Den, they always say that they invest in the person, not the product. So if you can go in and it's not just because you're dead charismatic or whatever it is you're able to do to con them into giving you money, it isn't that. They were saying that, look, the serial entrepreneurs, we know about these people, don't we? The dragons are serial entrepreneurs. They invest in things that they think they're going to be able to make money on. If you yourself are someone like that, or can sort of emulate that of going, look, it's not just a product, this, you invest in me, you're going to be successful because I've got a range of products. I'm going to continue to be successful. I'm going to keep pushing this company forward, and this is the time to show it. Have you got any other ideas? What about that? Who have you got around you? Because they always say, don't you, you should always be the stupidest person in the room, or rather surround yourself with more intelligent people than you, and you should never feel bad about being the thickest person in the room. Essentially, you should feel good about that, because that means that you are in the right circles. You are surrounding yourself with very intelligent people. Then that's really good, isn't it? Especially in business, when you're going to need these people to hopefully help you out, make decisions as well. You want the best in the business, don't you? Financial forecasts, we've got things like break-even charts, we've got stuff like cash flow forecasts, we've got stuff like, we can't really do, we can't do profit and losses and stuff like that. We could do forecasts, but it wouldn't be any good for us, really. That the main ones we really want to do is your cash flow, your break-even, and they're your viability, really, to help you out. Is this a viable business? So one thing I would say is, if you want to start your own business, do a viability study. Actually have a look at what you would have to do. Get your costs, put them in, do a break-even, do a range of break-evens, do some what-if scenario analysis, and have a look whether you could actually afford to do it, whether it's going to be worth it to do it. Because people start off on business and they start talking about gross profit margins, and they don't think about, but what's the net profit margin? After everything's been taken off, what am I actually taking home? People don't think about it. It's crazy, but people spend all the time, they invest a lot of money and time into these businesses, and then they realise that they were never viable, that there were never going to be a market for it. It was just because you like, making surfboards or bloody doing people's nails or whatever it is that you do. If there's a market for it, there's the cat. Go on. Go on. Go on. Right. Sorry about this. Go on. There he goes. He always has to be involved, doesn't he, Gizmo the cat? But he puts hair all over the place, don't you, cat? Thinks he's a dog, that cat. Anyway, buying and production information. This is how are you going to be able to, where are you getting your stuff from? What about your production? Have you got have you already got your suppliers sorted out? Is it something that you're going to have a look into? That kind of stuff. I mean, no person who's investing in business wants to hear that you are not prepared, that you have not got the stuff ready, that you are not in a situation where you can just jump in. They want to know that you are sensible, that you have done your due diligence, that you have spent the time looking into whether this is a viable business or not. Not just for you, because screw you in terms of that. That's what they'll be like. They'll be saying, they'll if you lose all your money, then who cares? But if we lose our money, that's an issue. So they don't care if you bottom out, if you trash all your finances and stuff like that. But they do care if they do it. So it really is an opportunity for you to do the viability test for yourself and decide whether you should actually go in ahead with this business, simultaneously doing the due diligence that people who are investing in this business will also want. And finally, the premise and equipment required. Now, there is going to be more information that you will need, but what I would like to see in this, if I was reading a business plan and I was thinking of investing in a business or having a look at why I should be a part of this business, I'd be looking at, have you had a look at different premises? Why have you chosen these premises? Is it got infrastructure links? Is it well accessible? Is it accessible to staff? Is it accessible to customers? Is it accessible to a wide range of people, or is it just what is it actually that are physically doing? All right, it's an important one, and it is one that's overlooked. But I want to see I want to see some like research that shows me why you've done this thing, not just I've seen this and I think it might be a good idea. That's not good enough. Not if I'm spending my money. Not if I'm investing my child's inheritance, as as investors say. You've got to be straight with them, haven't you? So, sources of information. Where can you get your information from to help you make this picture? Because there's a hell of a lot of information that I've just asked you to do. Well, there's a couple of sources of information for it. So, first of all, where can we get information from? Bank managers. Bank managers are a fantastic source that people don't utilise very often. Bank managers deal with businesses all the time. So, if you want to find out that the best way that you can get access to stuff, in terms of finance, what the best deals are, go and speak to the bank manager. Don't if you're a business, you don't want to be speaking to some random second in command thing. You need to go to the top. You need to be talking to these people and making your case for why they should want to spend the bank's money with you. Next one's friends, family and work colleagues. Now be careful of doing this. All right, this is out of all of them, I'd say this is the one that I would say be very, very careful about taking anything these people say. Take them with a pinch of salt, okay? So friends, family and work colleagues are always going to say positive things, unless you've got someone who's particularly quite harsh. That's not good for you. That's not good for your business. That's not good for potential investors. That's not good for making your dreams a reality. This is why people who can't sing turn up on X Factor or Britain's Got Talent or whatever it is, because they're surrounded by people who are telling them that they are skilled or that it is an opportunity for them, when it's ridiculous. No, of course it isn't. It's definitely not an opportunity for you. No. But there's who said you can sing? Well, my mum said I could sing. Well, that's what, and you listen to them. This is insane. But people do it not only, they don't only trash their reputation by going on things like Britain's Got Talent irreparably. How do you come back from something like that, embarrassing yourself in front of the nation like that? But they don't only do that, then they do that with business as well, which is even crazier, because you're investing your money. All right, if you trash your reputation, but at least you're not losing money. But in terms of this, you are, yes. At the end of the day, of course, your family and friends, your work colleagues are good people to speak to run it by and things like that. But don't be surprised if they're all relentlessly positive about it. In which case, is there any point of doing it? Was there any point of actually taking part in the discussion in the first place? I don't know. Small business advisors can be useful. That doesn't mean they're small in stature. It just means that they literally help with small businesses. These are sometimes free. I mean, just jump over to the Prince's Trust over there. They can help as well. And they provide finance and things like that. But they can also provide advice and things like that. Prince's Trust is it's a separate from the government organisation, but it's been set up to help small businesses, to help community projects and things like that try and get off the ground. And if you are doing something which they are trying to help, I mentioned yesterday about getting funding from the government for things. If you are doing something which the Prince's Trust are particularly interested in at the minute, whether it's recycling or community spirit or whatever it is, getting children into things, whatever. They might be able to fund you, but if they don't fund you, they can provide you with business professionals that can help you as well. Which is, why not just take advantage of them? You might as well take any advice or any help that you can get. So small business advisors can help. They can be separate from the business. You may need to pay for them. Usually for the Prince's Trust, they'll provide you the stuff for free, which is always better. Try and minimise those costs as much as we can. We've got accountants now. Again, I've spoken to accountants before. I work with a couple, but I've spoken to them separately on the idea of starting small businesses and things like that, and they are fantastically useful. You can usually get them to do things for free for you, just as an initial consultation. So if you only want to ask them a couple of ideas, a couple of questions, they usually do some free stuff, which is really helpful. Go and get in touch with an accountant firm, and just explain the situation. Just say, I'd like to have just a half an hour consultation with someone, and they will give you the first half an hour free, which is dead good. Don't underestimate the power of accountants. They deal with tax and stuff, but they are involved with business constantly. They will probably have a look at your business plan. You probably have to pay them to do these things, but they will have a look at things for you and say whether they would agree or not, or whether the viability, whether it's financially viable and things like that. But yeah, do not underestimate them. You can get them to do certain stuff for free, which is dead good. That's not to say, you exhaust your family, friends and colleagues. You might have an accountant in terms of that, in which case, if they're not just looking at their opinion, but looking at their professional expertise as well, great, Business Link is another one, very much like Prince's Trust and local enterprise agencies. They are all either online, or you've mainly got access to them online now, but they are all opportunities for you to access help, advice, potential funding, with the Prince's Trust, but you can get sort of help and advice from them, especially with the local enterprise agencies. You may be able to get some advice on government initiatives and stuff like that. But any of those, Business Link, local enterprise, Prince's Trust, all pretty good, all quite useful to you. What I would say to you is, if you were starting to think about doing a business plan for your own use, rather than just talking about them for the use of an exam, which I would always say is a very useful thing. If you are thinking about doing a business, just whip a business plan, spend some time with it. They can be quite fun to do, because it means it gives you an opportunity to actually get the stuff down. Can be quite frightening as well, because it makes you actually genuinely look at the viability of it, and a lot of the time it isn't viable. You realise that quite early on. So benefits and disadvantages, as we always like talking about. Benefits is the main one, I think, is looking at problems. So it identifies the issues with your thinking, with the ideas for your business, with the ideas with the market. Competitive advantage considered. This is another good one. What is going to be your competitive advantage? Are you completely sort of getting your advantage from the copyright protection you've got from your patent? Is it from the people you're working with? Is it from the creativity? Is it something like that? But if it is it something that can be replicated by bigger businesses, or are they just going to come and stamp on you? Because they potentially could, couldn't they? The resources are planned, another good one. You're not going to overdo it. You're not going to say, oh, well, actually, we're going to do 10,000 units in the first 5 minutes. Well, you haven't got the resources. You haven't got the capabilities to do that. You need to be sensible about it and be more structured. Aims and objectives are set. Again, one of the most important things. Remember, though, if you get a business plan and you look at all the brilliant things that a business plan can do, including the aims and objectives, including where we're going, how we're going to get there, brilliant. If you don't ever use it, if you just stick it in a drawer and never use it again, then there was no point in actually doing it in the first place, was there? And you'd be surprised how many businesses do that. They do this to get the finance, they look at it, and then they never update the business plan again. Which is not good for you, and it's not good for any sort of stakeholders for the business, is it? I don't know if you can hear that. I don't think you can. My little boys are going crazy in the background. And it's a really good way of monitoring performance as well. So from time to time, get it out, have a look, see whether you're actually doing. Are you actually achieving those aims and objectives, or are you simply just Have you gone way off track or something like that? Now, with the problems, they're not all perfect, but situations may quickly change. Is it actually worth doing it if you know change? I mean, we couldn't have possibly known this was going to happen. I was speaking to a small business owner yesterday, actually, a friend of mine, and he was saying that he just started a new business just before the lockdown happened, just before this coronavirus thing took off. And I know the government is saying they're going to help people out and stuff, but realistically, that's the worst position you could be in. Because if you're not even established or anything, okay, if you are completely not established and you've not spent money on anything, but you've got people who've paid rents, who've made rental agreements and things on property, and they can't access them, and they're still expected to pay for them. You know, it's crazy. As I said, it's a crazy time for business owners, but situations change. Sometimes you can't be affected by this. You can have contingency plans, but you know, do you really need to continue? Do you really need a contingency plan for if there's a complete, countrywide lockdown? Maybe in the future you will. Yeah, maybe it is sensible to have that now. You know, maybe we're all living in a different world now, aren't we? If this can happen once, there's the thought that it might happen multiple times. So they release the grip on us a little bit, and then another lockdown, release the grip. So maybe in the future we will need to have contingency plans for lockdowns and things like that. I don't know, you know, but you can't. The one thing you can't do is you can't plan for everything. Projections might be inaccurate. They might be based on feelings and expect it rather than actual data. They might be based on data which you've been found which isn't that usable. So projections can be inaccurate. Planning doesn't guarantee success as well. A really important thing we get in the exam. You will. I've seen the question so many times where they say, "Does X, does whatever, guarantee success?" And the answer is no, it doesn't guarantee success because nothing can guarantee success, not in business. If we could guarantee success, we'd all be successful, wouldn't we? So it's important to talk about that in the question. Always go in with understand the question that you're talking about, but it doesn't guarantee success. Planning doesn't. It depends on the knowledge and the experience of the author as well. Who is actually doing it? Is it someone like yourself, someone who's completely inexperienced? Unless you are watching this and you're a very experienced business person, would you feel comfortable putting your money on the line? I would say probably I'd be better than the average person watching this at making a business plan, but I wouldn't, not necessarily, because although I might have the experience of doing it, I still have the same bias. I still have my hypothesis is that I want my business to be successful and I'm passionate about my business. So I don't know that this is going to be particularly successful, do I? I don't know that. It's a difficult one. So we've got a range of things, good things, bad things. They're not perfect, okay? So does it ensure success, like I said? No, it doesn't. To increase the likelihood of success, though, and this is what I want you to be saying about on those exam questions. I don't want you to just say, no, nothing guarantees success, because yes, that's a good salient point, but I need you to be talking about it's increasing the likelihood of success is what we're talking about, isn't it? So anything you talk about doesn't have to be business plans, can be any part of the spec, but it's all about increasing the likelihood of success, decreasing the likelihood of failure if we can. So does it do that? We'll use whatever secondary data exists. Remember what we said about primary and secondary data. Secondary data is something that has been done by someone else for some reason. So it's data that already exists. Maybe it's online data, competitor data, market data, whatever it is. Use the secondary data exists that undertake primary research where it would be cost effective and useful. Go and look into it. Do your own thing. Invest your own money into it if you need to. If you're not willing to spend any money doing proper research on this, oh no, well, I don't want to waste money on doing loads of research. Well, it's going to cost you a hell of a lot more if you fail. Be careful with your money in terms of this. Use expert advice such as the government agencies and the bank, your accountants firms, your Prince's Trust, whatever it is that you're using. Ask people, talk to others in the industry. This is a good one. You'd be surprised how many will help you out. If you go into places and saying, I'm thinking of making a competitor to you, they wouldn't necessarily help you out, but you'd be surprised how many companies will chat to you about things like this, but go into businesses, go into sort of competitors and ask them, how's business? I'm really interested in this. I'm a student doing a project, and have a look into it. You'd be surprised how much they will answer and access things like that, especially if you are a student. If you're doing a project, do a project. I did a project at university on a local music company, and I actually got to speak to the CEO As I said, he was very, very accommodating. Actually, he just said, "Yeah, come down." So we, I mean, it's not a massive business, so he wasn't like in a high rise thing somewhere. I just went down to the company. There was two main people who own the business and run it, and they came down and we sat in a room and I asked them questions and I asked them about the competitors and I asked them about what they currently were doing. I asked them why they chose to do things, and they were very open about it, really. And they didn't see, and I could have potentially been a competitor. I'm not saying that I couldn't, but he could have because I'm a business student. That's what I'm interested in, that kind of stuff. So don't forget to talk to other people in the industry. Actually ask them for things, and people will be very accommodating. Emails are easy to get rid of, but if you go in and ask if you can speak to someone, a lot of the time they'll if they have the time for you, they will do. Look at similar plans as well. If there's anyone else who's already done it, go on the internet and have a look if someone else has tried to do your business idea, because I guarantee someone will have tried. And have a look at why they failed. Have a look at what patents they had. Have a look at whatever, things like that. And that will hopefully minimize that risk for you. Treat as a working document and regularly revisit and update. This is the main one: is don't just put it back in a drawer. Actually use it, bring it out, update it, use it as a working document. Okay. Now we're nearly there. So it needs to be a working document. It needs to be continually visited. It's really important, that bit. So with these are the main things I would say are the if I had 5 different things that I would tell you are really, really important. Is number one is seek guidance. Really, really important that we do that we don't just go in ad hoc. Second, know your market. There is no substitute for good market research. If you look at successful business people, they know their market back to front. They will be able to tell you all about trends. They'll be able to tell you about products. They'll be able to tell you about seasonality. They'll be able to tell you about all the different things that happen in that market. Plan your finances. Cash flow is so important. We keep talking about it, and we can see in the situation that we're in at the minute that cash flow is one of the most important things that will affect a business. Then we've got recruit the right people. We always know surround yourself with more intelligent people than yourself. For businesses, recruiting and motivating staff can be the difference between success and failure. So have a think about how you're going to run your business. What kind of skills, abilities? Is there anyone you already know who have these skills and abilities? And finally, have realistic objectives. Do not be setting, I'm going to be market leader within 6 months. It's very, very unlikely that you're going to be able to do that, and you're going to kill yourself trying to do it as well. Be sensible, be reasonable about your objectives. Sometimes you do need to, really get in there and get the work done as fast as you can and bang, bang, bang. Sometimes you do need to do that, but sometimes you can be a lot more structured and be reasonable with things and think, right, well, actually, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be, I'm going to be a bit more structured. I'm going to be working on this. I'm going to be working on that. And that's the most sensible thing to do, in terms of that is be smart, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, time bound. Okay. So quick questions. True or false? A business plan guarantees a firm's success. True or false? It's false. Nothing guarantees success. A business plan should be produced when a business starts up. True or false? True, but it should be maintained. A business plan should usually include a sales forecast. True or false? Yes, it should, including a cash flow forecast as well, if we can, or a break even. Number 4, outline 2 important elements of a business plan. Well, they're all important, aren't they? But we've got the executive summary. We've got the market analysis. We've got the sort of personnel. We've got the product design. We've got the there's loads of different things, isn't there? Outline 2 groups that might be interested in looking at a firm's business plan. So stakeholder groups that would be interested in this. One big one's going to be the bank if you're looking for finance, which you probably are, and another one is probably going to be investors if you decide that you're going to go somewhere else. What might an entrepreneur gather information? Where might an entrepreneur gather information required for the business plan? We've got a wide range of different places. If you remember, family and friends, accountants, Prince's Trust, government agencies, Business Link. Who was the other ones? There's a wide range. You can go on the internet and have a look at things like that. State 2 businesses are drawing up a business plan. The big ones are they will look at the viability for you yourself. They won't only just look at the viability for your potential investors, but it looks at the viability for you and whether you're going to actually invest in something which is sensible or not, or whether you're going to waste your money. And another big one as well is it makes you have a look at finances and whether you can actually afford to do it. So it's a very useful document. It really is. It's something that which I would definitely recommend any business, not only business students, but any business takes part in. Let's have a quick look at a past paper question then, because we are nearly done, ladies and gents. We're going to have a look at this, and we're going to have a look at, I've done an answer for you. We're going to have a look at it. Let's just have a look through this one. All right. So it says Mike and Mia, who have degrees in photography, have decided to set up their own photography business as a private limited company. Remember, a private limited company has limited liability. They have not gone through. They have been through incorporation, which means they are a separate legal entity from the business, so the business can be sued and things like that. But if you remember, private limited companies also can only get investments from people who all the shareholders invite into the business. Usually, therefore, is family members and things like that. One of the first tasks is to write a business plan, even though it is sometimes seen as an unnecessary chore and a document required by others rather than something that is essential for the business. Interesting, isn't it? And it's true that it is seen as an unnecessary thing and it is seen as a chore, but it's one of the most important things that you do. If you can't be bothered to spend, a week or two producing a document, spending a bit of money on it, spending a bit of time on it, then you shouldn't be going into business anywhere, because you're not sensible enough. You're going to fail. You're taking such a risk with money. You're saying, "Oh, I don't want to spend a tenner because I might lose 100." You're not looking at losing 100. You're going to lose 1,000,000. It's really, really important. You might go bankrupt over these things. So take them seriously. Explain the benefits to Mike and me of having a business plan. So how would we do this? Well, let's have a look at the AOs. So explain the benefits. So explain the benefits of Mike and Mia of having a business plan. We've got some AO1, haven't we? We haven't got any AO4. We could potentially have AO2 in this. So probably AO1, AO2, AO3, because we've got explain the benefits. We've got Mike and Mia, and we've got business plan. So AO1, AO2, AO3, I would say for this one. And remember, weirdly, especially with the Welsh Board, they don't half do things weirdly sometimes. They do randomly put marks in. So sometimes they go, oh no, well, it looks like it has AO2 in it, but it doesn't. So always you're never going to get, you're never going to lose marks for things. So if you put too much in it, so never be worried about that. If you want to put some valuation in it, even if it's not needed, you are going to waste a bit of time, but ultimately it's more important that you get the stuff down. This one obviously doesn't have any evaluation in it, but if you're like that on it, then always opt on the side of caution. So what would a perfect answer be for this one then? So what I would be looking for you to do with this one is I'd be looking with 6 marks. I'd be looking for three benefits. Explain the benefits. Remember, there's no disadvantages. There's no AO4. So let's just have a look at the advantages. So I'd be looking for 3 advantages. I'd be looking at, it helps you look at the finances, it helps you set aims and objectives, and it helps you gain the trust of potential investors potential investors or the bank and things like that. So we've got 3 there. Now, if this was an AO1, AO2, AO3, you could probably just do 2 and get, 1 AO1 for each, 2 points, and for each one AO1, 1 AO2, 1 AO3. But if this is an AO1, AO2 one, or an AO2 and AO3 one, then we'd be looking at 3 different points. I'd say for this one, it's probably going to be. I think it's going to be AO1, AO2, AO3. That 2 points. So yeah, it helps look at the viability using cash flow forecasting, the sales forecast, and market research and that. And it also looks at. It also helps us look at things like, whether it is financially viable. Look at the cash flow forecast and things like that. Break even analysis. And the cat's back. He's very interested in being involved, that cat. And finally, let's have a look at the specimen paper. Okay, I don't know if you can see that, but I'm going to have to lean in a little bit because I can't really see it, but I hope you can. It says, Danny, a catering student, and Richard, a business undergraduate, have been close friends since meeting at school some 10 years ago. They've been impressed by the food that had been purchased at a mobile caterers outside a football ground that they have really recently attended. The idea of running their own business, that was something they'd been contemplating for a while, and by the time they had completed the 4-hour journey home from the match, they had hatched a plan to start their own mobile catering partnership. They were aware that the local authority offered an enterprise advice scheme, and upon finishing college and gaining their qualifications, they set up a meeting with an advisor in an attempt to get their business off the ground. Soon after the start of their meeting, they both began to realise that there was much more to setting up their business than they initially thought. Prior to making their next meeting in 6 weeks' time, they had been set the target of drawing up a business plan to present to their advisor. Her parting words were, at the conclusion of the meeting, gave them a great deal to think about. A new venture supported by a business plan has a much greater chance of success in today's business environment. Interesting. So it says here on the thing, I'll see if I can just zoom in a little bit for you. I know it's not great. Let's start here. It says, to what extent do you agree with the view that a business plan will guarantee the success of a business venture such as Danny and Richards? Now, this is a specific one for the Welsh Board. If you see such as, we know, or hopefully you know by now, that if you see such as Danny and Richards, that doesn't mean you have to apply it. And if you look at the mark scheme below, there's no AO2. So even though Danny and Richard are specifically stated in the question, they're not actually, they don't actually get you any marks. So it's important to that. That means that you can talk about any business, but they want some application. They want you to talk about a big business, a small business, you know, a new business, a well-established business, a dominant business, whatever it is that you're talking about. But it's saying a business such as Danny and Richard. So I'd be looking at a new business essentially. So to what extent do you agree with the view? So to what extent is an AO4? We're looking for different types of argument. We're looking for benefits and disadvantages. We're looking for some kind of conclusion. And with this, we're looking for how will it guarantee the success of a business venture. We know it can't guarantee success. That's the one thing it can't do. So what can it do? It can improve the success, the likelihood of success for those, can't they? It can improve the likelihood for success for them. And if we look at some of the questions that are just down below here, it says identify two of the main components of a business plan, 2 marks, and explain two... I don't know why it says 2 like that. I explained 2 advantages and 2 disadvantages of Danny and Richard setting up as a partnership, and that brings you back to what we talked about yesterday or the day before when we talked about different types of ownership, didn't it? And the importance of looking at them and the importance of understanding the benefits and disadvantages of being a partnership, the fact that we can share the risk, the fact that we can, you know, do a range of things like that. So we are. We are. There we are. That is business plans in a nutshell. Now, business plans are a really important thing. They are something which you cannot avoid. They are something which you're going to have to bump your head against, not just as a business student, but as a business owner. It's something that you really, really do need to get your head around and really understand the importance of. Don't cheap out on getting your business plan effective and done, because if you do, you're going to deal with the consequences of that, and they can be grave. You know, like lots of people do businesses that they are viably not, they're just not financially viable to do, because the break even would be crazy. You would have to sell 10,000 units to break even, but you're selling lawnmowers. There's no way you're going to do that. You know, like, there's no way you're going to do that a month. There's no way you're going to do that a week. You're not going to do that. You know, you'd have figured that out if you'd actually looked at your numbers properly. So we're going to have a look at the news, as we always do. Just finish off, have a look at what's happening in the world today. So I'll just reset it, just check what's going on. So what are we doing here? It's an interesting one. Let's have a look at this one. Passport Office staff told to go back to work. Staff working for Her Majesty's Passport Office believe their lives are being put at risk because of the demands that they return to work. Many have been asked to go back next week, despite ongoing coronavirus crisis. On Tuesday, staff were told by a Home Office scientific advisor 80% of the people would get COVID-19 in the end, and we can't hide away from it forever. Wow, that's an impressive thing, isn't it? In the Home Office said that it was maintaining social distancing at passport offices. When and how to get staff back into the workplace, a question employers will increasingly have to grapple with across the UK. Her Majesty's Passport Office has centres in Belfast, Durham, Glasgow. Yeah, I don't know. I think, according to the transcript seen by the BBC, she said the government health advice did not mean that staff should stay home instead of delivering critical services. Well, is passport really important at the minute? We're closed down anyway, aren't we? Is it really that important? Sources at Public and Commercial Services Union said up to 2,000 staff will be asked to go back in, with 500 in offices at any one time. However, dozens of staff were sent messages that were deeply concerned about returning to work. Your actions are going to kill people. And this potentially could. People are dying, and that is something that I think we're still underestimating, aren't we? If my family die because you insist I need to come back to work before the surge passes, I will pursue a claim against the Home Office for negligence. Well done. Yeah, I don't want my I don't want my parents or my family to die. I'm less worried about suing them. I'm more bothered about protecting them. It says here. This is an interesting one as well. Greater Manchester Police warning after 660 parties shut down. Wow. Greater Manchester Police has warned police not to break lockdown rules. And this is it, isn't it? People are morons. Like, people are dying out there. They're still not taking it seriously, are they? There are 1,132 coronavirus-related breaches between Saturday and Tuesday. Goodness me, that includes 494 house parties. Are you an idiot? The answer's yes, isn't it? And then people wonder why they're saying go back to work. Or no, I mustn't go back to work. Or I've got a house party to go to. They're just thick. People are thick. That's the thing. Thick planks of thickness. It says, we understand the desire for people to spend some time with family and friends over the Easter period. However, it is vital that we follow the government guidelines. The single most important action we can take is to stay at home. I don't understand why it's so difficult for people. The people spend so much time complaining that they never get any time off work, and then when they finally given it, they can't be bothered, and they have to do. They have to, it beggars belief. It really does. It's really, really aggravating. Look, coronavirus cases near 1.5 million worldwide. It's not a joke. It's serious, isn't it? Let's have another look at these anyway. Holidaymakers say that they're struggling to get refunds on cancelled holidays due to the lockdown. We won't get a refund on our 17 grand chalet. Let's have a look. British consumers say they are struggling to get refunds on cancelled holidays. IT consultant Alex Hilton and his wife Jenny had planned on skiing holiday in France with university friends. They made a booking for 20 people to stay at a Chalet Amelia in Val something or other this April. The cost the chalet alone came to 17 grand. The coronavirus lockdown means that they cannot go, but they've been told that they are not entitled to a refund or booking on the chalet. The chalet company says they are open for business, but the ski resort is shut, and British Airways has cancelled the flights to France, so I can't even get there. This is an interesting one, but come on, 17 grand? 17 grand. I mean, I'm not being funny, but if you're spending 17 grand on a holiday, it's very middle class, this, isn't it? Extremely middle class. The first world problems. Wow, people are dying around the world of this, and they're worried they're not going to get money back for a bloody an expensive skiing holiday. I'm being facetious because I know that it's a real problem and stuff like this, and for 20 people, I suppose that's quite cheap actually, if you were to divvy it up between those people. But I think that they are going to. They probably will get the money back, I imagine. Let's do one more before we call it for today. Oil prices rise as a major producers prepare to meet. Disney Plus racks up 50 million subscribers in 5 months. Let's have a look at that one. Disney's new video streaming service has reached more than 50 million subscribers since its launch 5 months ago. When Disney Plus last announced viewing figures in February, it said it reached 26.5 million subscribers. Since then, it's almost doubled as more people are online and stuck at home. Disney Plus, which rivals Netflix and Amazon Prime, rolled out to the UK and other parts of Europe last month. All three streaming platforms are enjoying a huge boost in viewing figures, and cinemas remain closed. Did you see? I don't know if you've seen this, but a big one for at the minute is the like you can actually get some films that were supposed to be in the cinema. They're actually releasing on like rentals instead, so they're not delaying. I know a lot of things have been delayed, but they're actually not delaying them. They are instead, just putting them on rental things, which is good. I think that's good. I mean, I have a 1-year-old, so I can't go to the cinema anywhere, but I'd like to be able to see the brand new cinema things. I mean, it'd be the end of the cinema, wouldn't it, if we did that? But I've got a massive telly, you know, and I'm happy to stay at home and watch things. My telly is so good; it's probably better than the screen at the cinema anyway. Anyway, let's call it for today, guys. Thank you very much for joining me. I will be back at 10 a.m. tomorrow with another topic, and we are pushing on well. We are pushing on really, really well. I hope you are staying strong. I hope you are staying healthy. Remember, you can get in contact with me on here. You can get in contact with me through email if you need to. You know, leave a like, leave a comment, leave a subscribe if you've not already done, and tell everyone about Mr. Businessman if you can, because it's some entertainment, isn't it? For now, I know it's not the most entertaining thing in the world, but what can you do? Hey, what can you do? Peace.